Hello, welcome to another episode of Sincerely Agile with Mary. Now, if you're watching for the first time or you're watching the replay, this is the show where we promote the growth mindset, where we endeavor to make change agents of ourselves, and of course, a platform where we want to be awesome and wholesome together. My name is Mary Lanion. I am an enterprise agile coach, and today we're looking at when leadership is the impediment. And to have this conversation with me, I have Diana Osagie joining me today, and I'm just going to invite her to the screen. Hello, Diana.
Hi. Thank you for having me, Mary. It's good to join you on this podcast. It's good to be here.
It's great to have you. I know you're a vibrant woman. You're so passionate about, all things leadership, and that's why we have you here today to talk about, why leadership, when leadership, just might be the impediment. Now, we have some people joining us already. I can see 2 people joining us already. Let me just check the comment section. Oh, we've got Ronke on LinkedIn. Hello, Ronke. Nice to have you. She's always here. She loves Sincerely Agile with Mary a lot. So I'm just going to introduce you to our audience, Diana. I've got your bio, and I'm just going to introduce you properly before we kick off our conversation. Now, Diana is the founder of Courageous Leadership Consultancy and the Academy of Women's Leadership, where women are supported to grow the leadership cultures of their organizations and to flourish as confident leaders. She is a leadership coach and trainer and consultant head teacher, school inspector with 21 years experience leading secondary education, including 6 years as a successful head teacher in London Secondary School. Diana works at the cutting edge of leadership development. She is known as a resilient school leader, skilled in urban leadership under challenging circumstances. She lectures on educational leadership for a UK university. She is the author of Courageous Leadership, a humorous book that gives school leaders strategies to shape their leadership experience. We all need an advocate, and that is what Diana becomes when you work with her. Now, Diana, that is quite impressive.
Thank you.
That looked like, that was all work to me. So when you're not working, what do you do for fun?
I do Thai kickboxing.
You're kidding me. So no messing about with you, right?
Nope. So that's what I enjoy. I enjoy traditional boxing and I enjoy Thai kickboxing.
Traditional boxing and Thai kickboxing.
Yeah.
As in you engage in this on a weekly basis?
I engage in it. That's what I use to train for fitness. I don't engage in actual combat and in matches, but those styles of fighting, what I use to train for fitness.
Wow. I think I need you as a friend. Oh dear, that's interesting. We have Stella da Silva here. Yes, Stella.
Hi, Stella.
Hello, Stella. Nice to have you here. Nice to have you here. Stella says she's a lovely lady too. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Stella.
All right.
Yeah.
Don't mess with Diana. Oh, yeah. Don't mess with her. Great to be here. Nice to have you here. Unfortunately, we can't see this Facebook user, but nice to have you here.
Nice to have
Thank you very much for being here. Now, our topic today, Diana, you are a leadership coach, trainer, and consultant. And our topic today is when leadership is the impediment. Now, leadership will always be an important topic because with leadership comes, a whole lot of responsibility in terms of how things get done, in terms of how, how successful we can possibly become as an entity, as an organization. So this is quite an important topic to be having a conversation about. And also given the common challenge that we have all had to endure, go through in the last 18 months. So it's a timely topic to talk about. So from your perspective, Diana, what is your definition of a leader? And in these challenging times, what should our expectations of leadership be post-COVID?
I mean, when I define a leader, I don't use a textbook per se or a dictionary, because it's a verb. It's a doing word. So it's not really an adjective where you describe. It's the thing that you do. It's the thing that you are. But there are 4 words that, if you are leading, you operate at the forefront of these 4 terms. The first is vision. So you bring vision to your organization. You are the vision carrier, if you like. So you are the one that is saying, we are going to follow that North Star. We're going to head in that direction. That's where we're going to go as an organization. So you are the vision carrier. You're at the forefront of vision. The second is mission. And mission means what the organization is for. What is the purpose? And you concern yourself with the answer to that question. So decisions that you make, strategies that you bring on board, people that you hire are in line with the mission or the purpose of the organization. If you're a leader, you concern yourself with the mission. The third is strategy. And strategy, simply defined, would be the guiding principles by which we make our decisions. So you might have a strategy for the next 5 years. This is how we're going to make decisions over the next 5 years. It might be a strategy for the next 90 days. This is what we're going to focus on, and we're going to use these particular parameters, these criteria, these principles to guide our decision making. If you're a leader, you concern yourself with strategy. And the fourth one is culture. And so culture is how we behave when nobody is looking, our default culture, the behavior of the organization. So you might have a culture of collaboration in the organization. That is how you guys behave when nobody's holding you to account. You might actually have a culture of bullying. Actually, the people in this organization are bullies towards each other. When no one's holding to account, that's how the behavior is. Leaders concern themselves with the culture of the organization. And actually, the fifth one would be values. Leaders concern themselves with reinforcing, reiterating, and strengthening the values of the organization, i.e., what is important to us. Is it important that we are first? Is it important that we are seen as collaborative or sustainable, or that we work in this particular way, that we are confident, that we are agile? What are our values? Leaders concern themselves with that. So those 5 things, if you are working, concerning yourself and developing those 5 things, then I would say you are leading.
Very, very well articulated, Diana. Vision, mission, strategy, culture. And I like the fact that you emphasize on the culture when no one is holding us to account, being our default disposition, if you like.
Exactly.
And of course, values to, reinforce all that we, hold there, all that we believe we are in terms of, our organizational identity. Very, very well articulated. Now, you have just given us your perception of who a leader is, a leader who is doing all of this, setting the direction. Now, in terms of setting the direction, pre-COVID, or should I even say decades ago, we saw leadership as the hero. We saw leadership as the one that sets the direction and everybody follows. But just before I continue, we have a lot of comments. I like to carry our audience along. Just bear with me. Okay, joining on LinkedIn, Stella da Silva. So unfortunately, a few leaders don't concern themselves with with anything. Okay.
Very true.
I love that. When no one is looking, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. When no one is looking, it's so important because it really means that, you know what, this is who we are. This is what we live and breathe. And that is so, so important. And we have Silva here saying, hello, everybody.
Hello, Sylvia.
Anyone can behave when they feel they are being. Absolutely.
That's exactly.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that, Sylvia. Thank you very much. I totally agree with that. So coming back to what I was saying.
Yeah.
We often, perceive leadership as the hero, set the direction, everybody follow. They are the one with all the answers, right? But things have changed, and they have changed a lot. And today we're talking about when leadership is the impediment. It might be, or should I say, given what has happened recently, it has come to show that we need more, should I say, or we need to leverage collective wisdom, we need to leverage collective intelligence, and to be able to tackle the kind of challenges we have today. I mean, look at what happened during COVID. Who would have thought that this could happen to us, in 1,000 years? I could never have predicted it. But it did happen, and somehow we have adapted. But post-COVID, what kind of leadership, what should the expectation be? Because you use the word agile also. You talked about strategy, you talked about planning for 5 years. 5 years today is too long. 3 years is too long. 1 year is probably even too long, but of course we still need that high level strategy. So given our current, reality with COVID and being a VUCA environment, what should we be expecting of leadership in terms of behavior, in terms of leading organizations today, making sure that they are not the impediment?
I don't think the expectation has changed.
Okay.
I think that some leaders were not fulfilling the original mandate. So the mandate is the same. Leaders should always have been, COVID or not, caring. Caring is not a weakness. Leaders should be kind. Kindness is not a weakness in leadership. Leaders should love their teams. Love is not a weakness. People flourish when they are loved. Why would you not want your team to flourish? So therefore, it makes sense to love your teams. Pre or post COVID, that hasn't changed. The expectations of the calling of leadership are the same. But what has changed is the urgency by which we have to fulfill the expectation. That has changed because COVID has shown us that the things that were so rigid and strong and looked like they would never be shaken fell overnight. And so we then had to lead a world where we went online overnight, where we had to engage, for example, in my profession in education, it would have not been considered to teach younger primary school children through Zoom. Not considered. That would have been a niche, strange phenomenon. But it became the norm. So we had to lead understanding ICT as an integrated tool in the way we live, not as a niche product. I mean, honestly, Zoom was, or these online platforms were a strange phenomenon. People didn't use those. So now it's about leaders understanding that the call on your life, if you are stepping into leadership, if you are choosing to function in leadership, servant leadership is just as important as it always was. Authenticity in leadership is just as important. Resilience, courage, love, kindness, putting your staff before you put your profit. All these attributes were always there. But what happened is that something like COVID or something like a crisis shows up that people were not meeting those attributes. So if you go back to something like the financial crash, which happened in 2007-8, where the world's finances just fell out, and then it came to light that certain banks were being run in a way that wasn't sustainable. So the leaders of those organizations were not fulfilling the call of leadership on their lives. And so situation came and that calling was exposed. Their competence was exposed. But the actual calling, the actual expectation has always been high of leaders. It's always been that way. But from time to time, events will happen in the world which expose that some of us are not operating with integrity. Some of us are winging it, just going through, making money, fulfilling agendas, but actually the deep call of leadership is not within us. And when something like a crash happens or a scandal comes along, you begin to see the exposure. So I don't think what was needed post-COVID or pre-COVID is different. I just think that leaders need to operate with integrity at all times, operate with love at all times, operate consistently at all times. And companies that do that weather such storms.
They do
Either
weather
they
such
weather the
storms.
storm or they will bounce back. You know, companies that operate highly, operate with integrity, operate with love, put their people first, put their people before they put their systems or their product. Those companies not just survive, but they actually lay a blueprint of how to lead.
How to lead, how to lead. You know, I like the fact that you said the expectation hasn't changed. That was always
It was always
the
there.
expectation.
Yeah.
And I am sure some leaders lived up to that expectation. And just like you have given us an example in the financial sector, some did not.
Yeah.
Some did not. Now, you have thrown up some very simple but important word, and Stella is just, concurring with you here. Caring.
Yeah.
We should show that we care.
Yeah.
Kindness.
Yeah.
Love. Trust. Servant leadership.
Yeah.
Now, talking about trust, let's very quickly go back to the COVID situation. Now, I've been in the technology space since the 90s, and I know of how technology evolved. So, talking about working remotely, this is something we had the capability of doing probably 10 years ago, okay?
Yeah.
But it wasn't on the table, right? If you wanted to work from home, it was something you planned ahead in terms of, having an agreement with your team lead or your manager or whatever the case may be. We did have the infrastructure to work from home, but there was no trust, right? There was no trust. A lot of organizations probably felt, they needed to see you in the office. You needed to have your butt to the chair to show that you are performing or that you are worth every dime that you're being paid. So trust, caring, kindness, love. It seems sometimes that these are words we are afraid to use within a professional environment, or we feel it's too fluffy. We feel it will show us up as being weak. Right? I'm the manager, I'm the leader, I'm the boss. I've got to show up strong. I can't afford to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
These are some of the issues pre-COVID.
Yeah.
But post-COVID, like you've just said, is the same expectation. But how can leadership now show up more and, be comfortable with being vulnerable? Otherwise, given the circumstances we're in today, there likely will be the impediment.
Yeah. I mean, there is always a space, and it's even more apparent now, for those honest conversations with your workforce, and not to lead through email, but to lead through relationship.
Okay.
And if you choose, and it is a choice, there are many leadership styles, and depending on the organization and the space that you're in, you will choose whatever you think works for you. But Stella's comment is making me laugh about Boris. If you choose to lead through relationship, that does not imply, or it's not synonymous with fluffiness, weakness, people just taking the mick and just doing as they please, and working from home but actually not doing very much. I mean, it's been proven so many times that people work from home, give more of themselves, give more of their time, are deeply engaged with the organization because they are free to do it in a way that allows them to function in that way. But if you lead through relationships take nurturing, they take conversation, they take sometimes there's healthy debate, there's argument. All these things are part of relationship. But I say this when I'm coaching leaders: if nobody is challenging your thinking, if there is no forum for people to bring and pose professional challenge to the way you think, not just the way you do things, Not shall we go left, shall we go right, but why should we consider going left? Why should we consider going right? If there's no forum for professional posing of challenge, then your thinking is stale and you don't even know about it.
Exactly.
So if you haven't engaged, or if you choose to be aloof from the people that are part of the organization's engine, your direct workforce, and you say you value them, but you don't value their views, nor do you value their opinion, it's the odd consultation which doesn't go anywhere and the workers know it, then you're going to struggle when times become difficult. Because remember, you know this, and Simon Sinek said it, he articulated it for the world to hear, but leaders have been saying it for years before he said it. But he's credited with saying about the why, talking about the why of leadership, talking about the why of workplaces. And we know people don't buy into how you want me to do this. You want me to mark in pink. You want me to assemble this product in this way. You want me to sell this product in this way. The how is almost inconsequential. Why do you do that?
Exactly.
What is the marketing bit? What is the purpose? Remember, I said to you that leaders focus on mission. What is the purpose? What is the value in doing it this way? Can we talk about this, or is it just a directive? Nobody buys into a directive. You pay me to implement a directive. I haven't bought into it. I am complying with you. And if someone else pays me more, I will move and comply with them. But if you want me to buy into, if you want me to not just work for you, but work with you, then we need to share a strong why together. I could follow people I don't trust. That'd be silly. I'm not a silly woman. Why would I follow someone that I don't trust? If I don't trust you, probably because I don't know you very well. If you've not shown yourself to me, your vulnerabilities, your likes, your dislikes, your motives, if I don't know you, I don't trust you. If I don't trust you, I'm not following you. I'm just complying with the directives that you give to me. Now, I might choose to comply for 40 years and then retire, but it's compliance. It's compliance.
That's right. Not commitment. It's not commitment at all.
Because you pay me and it works, this works well for me. I might choose to comply for 6 months and then I see something else, I'd rather comply with that and I move. Absolutely. But when you're in relationship with people, that's a level of leadership that's harder to say, I'm going to move because I want to be with you. That's not compliance. That's a part of leadership love.
Absolutely. And it's part of creating that environment where people can thrive, an environment where people have purposeful engagement, an environment where people can come to work fully. Because, I mean, if we look at how organizations have been designed traditionally, when we go back to the industrial age, where, I mean, I guess it would be right to say people were mostly paid for their hands, not their brains, so to speak. But today, we are in a knowledge economy. And to think that, you know, the same mindset or behaviors, if you like, that helped you 30 years ago, 40 years ago will help you today, you will be creating a whole lot of problems for the organization you're leading. I like the fact that you talk about compliance and not commitment. I will comply because I need to pay my mortgage, right? I will comply. But if you create the right environment and people are purposefully engaged, okay, and they have autonomy, tell them the what you want and let them figure out how to do it because they're the one with the knowledge, right? Then even when people, you know, have probably another opportunity they could jump to, sometimes they would stay because of the relationship. They would stay because of how they feel about the organization. Very well said, Diana. Very well said. Very well said. I'm just looking at more comments, you know, agreeing with what you have said here, that caring is power. It's not a sign of weakness. It is actually, you know, power. Love is strength. Absolutely. And someone here is saying because of the masculinity that of leadership, that is probably why we have all these problems. Now, when we go into major organizations, we know that, people like you and I, the higher you go in that, on the ladder, the fewer women you see. Now, is this plain, just like an audience here is saying, is that also part of the problem in terms of the type of leadership we actually see?
Absolutely. I mean, it's not just in terms of women. Diversity at the leadership table is your strategic
Yeah,
advantage. That's it's as
yeah.
simple as that. Now I'm talking not just gender. I'm talking
Hmm.
diversity of faith, diversity of ethnicity, diversity of sexuality, diversity of background, diversity of experience, of social class. All of these diversities are your strategic advantage. And no company ever has said to
Mm.
themselves, let us throw away our strategic advantage. Yet many companies do that daily by hiring in their own image,
Yeah.
hiring people who look like them, who talk like them, who've had the same experience as them, went to the same universities, went to the same college, went to the same walk of life, and therefore see the world exactly the way they see the world. And if you do that, you create an emotional, intellectual, almost physical bubble which has no diversity in it. Therefore, you cannot bring to your leadership discussions, strategy making, culture making, values implementing a diverse train of thought. It
Mm.
doesn't make sense to not
Yeah.
have diversity throughout your whole organization, including
Mm.
at every level of leadership. It doesn't actually make sense.
It
But
doesn't.
leaders of organizations, some of them literally don't know how to break that cycle of recruiting and
Mm.
of promoting in their own image, because and it's an institutional way of thinking. It's always been thus. Some people
Well,
so they
is it that they don't know how to break that cycle,
some
or
of
they are
them
not
don't know.
intentional enough about it?
Some of them are intentional. There's no doubt
Mm.
about it. Some jobs are reserved for certain people. It's as simple as that. And if you apply, you haven't got a cat in hell's chance of getting through the first round. Simple.
Mm.
Lots of decisions about leadership, especially corporate leadership, are made in the pub or made on the golf course. They're not made in an open recruitment process. We'd be silly if we thought that was true. So if you're
Mm.
not part of the golf club or of that particular gentleman's club, you won't even know the positions available, let alone have an opportunity to apply for it. Some
Wow.
leaders reject the notion of challenge and of dialogue and of ways of thinking that they have not instigated themselves. They reject that. They won't say that because that sounds silly to say, I reject new thinking. But they will behave in a way where they see, as Stella is saying, that the challenge you are bringing to me is a threat. Now, I have an
Mm.
example where I run an organization, as you know, called Courageous Leadership. And one of my coachees, she was coached, she went through the program, fine. She then applied for an assistant headship at a school. And the head teacher was given like a preliminary discussion before a major interview, just like a look round day. And the head teacher saw her application form, and on it, she'd written that she spent a year doing the creative leadership course. And I kid you not, Mary, this is what the head teacher said to her. I see you've done courageous leadership as a course. And she said this, well, let me tell you right from the off, we will have no courage here. Nobody challenges me or my authority, so get that idea out of your head. That's
You're kidding me.
that's exactly what she said. So my coachee came back to me like, Diana, you've ruined my career. What's happened here? People think it's a dreadful thing to be courageous. Look what she said to me. And I said, I've just saved your career, because you would have worked for her, been appointed, and you would have had 3 years or 2 years of hell. How can a leader
That is
say,
true.
I don't want any of my leadership to be
Mm.
courageous? Don't you? She's not even said you're appointed. She's telling her from the off, don't you even think of challenging me.
Don't even think about it.
So she's conflating courage and challenge as one negative thing anyway. But why? That just shows you that when you show up, bringing diversity of thought, bringing strength, which is an asset to an organization, some leaders see it as a threat to their detriment.
To their detriment, absolutely. Especially at a time like this, Diana. Especially at a time like this.
It doesn't make sense to keep your leadership table in a monoculture, whether that be a monoculture of male voices, of male white voices, of straight voices, of ethnically all one way voice, of faith-based all one way voices. It doesn't make any sense to do that. But
absolutely,
it's what we do.
Yeah. And, it's important to lead in a way that creates other leaders. And in the agile space, this is what we are promoting. That in this current climate, what we need leaders who are creating leaders. In other words, you need to step into that space of a gardener, if you like, if I can use that metaphor. As a gardener, you're creating an environment where different types of plants can thrive. You are coaching, you're facilitating. But unfortunately, I'm sure there are some leaders with that kind of mindset who really want to step into that role, into that space and create more leaders and minimize the pressure on themselves. Because like you said, if you're in that fixed mindset of, I know it all, you dare not challenge me, you are actually doing that to your own detriment as a leader. Yeah. And it is not sustainable.
Yeah,
it's not sustainable. At all sustainable.
Well, it's not sustainable, but what it's perpetuated because it's there, and organizations have been run like this for generations. But it's not healthy. It leads to a workforce that is skewered, and it's just not to your advantage. It doesn't make sense. And most leaders would consider themselves at least sensible people.
Yeah. I'm just trying to go through some of our interesting comments here. Stella did say, okay, some leaders just want yes people around them, which is not the best in this current environment at all. It is important to lead in a way that creates other leaders. Absolutely. I saw another comment here. Okay, Stella says, I've seen some awful women leaders. Well, of course, it's not just about men. If you're a leader, it doesn't matter what your gender is. You may be a good one, you may be a bad one. They lost their way on the way up. Absolutely.
Yes.
And these are people who I'm sure when they were down there also felt, you know what, this is a bad leader. He can be a better leader. But when you get there, exactly, you repeat exactly the same thing instead of doing better. Another comment here, that echo chamber effect, exactly, it is so dangerous.
Well, that's exactly what led. It was that thinking, that echo that led to the financial crash, because you had mainly male voices running massive banks that had tentacles in the economies across the world, but it was a huge banking echo chamber. So you put out a call, is this the way to go? Because only people like you are in the room, the answer comes back, yes. The echo just comes back because you've surrounded yourself with the same clone of yourself. So if you shout out, shall we pursue this strategy? You're saying back to yourself, yes, let's pursue that strategy. And because it didn't actually come out of your mouth, it came from people around you, you don't realize you're just answering your own questions.
Absolutely. And no one has the courage to challenge that.
Well,
no one has the courage to challenge
there we go. Until it falls flat and we all have to pay the price.
Panoramic view, self-decision making.
Absolutely. I like that.
And we have here an interesting session here. You might be interested in, ma'am. Okay. I didn't quite get that. Sylvia, Sometimes they have their own
Absolutely.
insecurities. Absolutely,
Yeah.
Sylvia. They are very, very insecure. And what they don't realize is that they are causing a whole lot of,
Yeah.
problem for their organizations. I mean, when we look at organizations like Nokia and Kodak, I mean, we use these institutions as case studies all the time. They had, engineers within their organizations who knew better, who knew the right thing to do to keep the company going, who could have, taken the company to a better place today.
Yeah.
But again, because the environment wasn't safe, we know how
Sure,
the
that's it,
story
isn't it?
ended.
Yeah.
Uh, Absolutely, you don't want to be in that kind of environment. I wouldn't want to. But now, talking about not wanting to be in that kind of environment today, for example, I think one of the things COVID has definitely put on the table, or should I say, reminded us of, is that as employees, we do have power.
Yeah.
Okay? We do have power. And COVID has also changed the conversation in terms of choices.
Hmm.
Now more than ever, I think employees now have the power to actually make that choice. For example, do I want to go back full time? Do I want to work hybrid? What do I want going forward?
Hmm.
And I mean, I speak for myself personally. Before COVID, I traveled almost every week. I mean, what am I saying almost every week? I traveled every week.
Mm.
I was in Brussels, I was in Rotterdam, I was in Norway, I was in Amsterdam. When COVID hit and we all had to
Mm.
slow down,
Mm.
I was like, oh, that was a lot of traveling. Okay. Today, for my sanity, for my peace of mind, for my health, do you know I wouldn't do that again?
Mm.
I wouldn't do that again. I am looking now for opportunities that would afford me that choice to work as much as I want to work from home. And I want to believe we all have that choice,
Yeah.
available to us, with the exception, of course, of some jobs that cannot be done remotely. I mean, if I'm a nurse, I
Sure.
wouldn't be working from home, I wouldn't be working remotely. But I think that choice is there now. And I want to believe that organizations are aware that people do know now that they have a choice now more than ever, and that
Yeah.
they have to now start thinking differently and really now engaging in that relationship. I mean, when we have situations like this, when there's a crisis, you would think that some leaders will step into that growth mindset. If anything, some step back in time and they want to do even more of command and control. During this COVID period, would you believe that some organizations were installing spyware?
Mm.
Some organizations were installing spyware because they want to monitor your every keystroke, because they still don't believe that you're going to perform when you're working from home. There's still no trust. That is still happening.
Mm.
What's the saying here? It says some leaders are just entitled, need to learn. Yes, absolutely. Now let me go back to some of our banners, Diana. Thank you for that very well articulated responses. Now, what propelled you into the leadership path as a career, and more importantly, informed the need to develop other leaders? Because that's what you're doing. What really pushed you into this space?
Well, I went into leadership early, so I became a deputy head teacher of a secondary school when I was 28, which was very, very young in those days. Um, and so a lot of responsibility early, but I applied for the role and I was appointed. I was able to articulate what my vision was, what my values were, the things I just described to you. And I served for 10 years at the chalk face of very difficult urban education as a deputy head. Then I was appointed head teacher when I was 39. Again, young for a secondary head teacher. So that's my leadership path, in that I chose to serve education in an urban context, education where I'm serving young people who, for the main, were coming from disadvantaged backgrounds and who needed people like myself to step in and change the narrative of their lives. And you can't do that unless you go into leadership. I can remain as I was a science teacher when I first started my career. I can remain a very, very good science teacher and influence their science education, but I can't change the narrative of their lives.
Hmm.
And I wanted to do that. And so leadership is about the level of influence that you have. And I knew that if I'm going to make the difference that I know I can, I have to step into leadership. And so that's what I did. And I then began to coach other leaders. I began to run leadership programs when I was head teacher, and to coach other head teachers, to coach other people coming up in the profession, because it might be from my African background, where we have a philosophy of sitting at the feet of elders, and you
Hmm.
learn from those who are frankly older and wiser than you, who have 50 years of experience, including making mistakes as well as celebrating successes. So you would do well to sit at the feet of elders in your profession and to just be quiet and to listen and to learn. You might
Mm-hmm.
learn, don't do it that way, but at least you've learnt that, as well as
Yeah.
you might learn, do it this way. So
Mm-hmm.
I sat at the feet of elders in my profession. I listened and I engaged and I networked with people who had been leading in my space a long time. And I decided in 2016 to leave my headship. It was going well. There was no difficulty as such, but I wanted to influence again at a higher level. So I wanted to coach
Mm-hmm.
teachers who were working in difficult spaces, which I had experienced.
Right.
So that's where it
Right.
came from. So now I do that. I develop and I support head teachers across the country and some internationally who are in difficult spaces. And if you think in my profession, what can happen is you're a very good teacher. So you get promoted to
Mm-hmm.
become head of department because you're a great teacher.
Right.
You may not be a great leader at all, but you are now head of
Mm-hmm.
department because of the strength of your teaching. So
Yeah.
you're now a great teacher, and somehow because I was a course subject, science or English or maths, those are very, very sought after subjects. You go for an assistant headship because after 3 or 4 years of being a department leader, people start saying to you, you should now move on, move up.
Mm-hmm.
You may
Mm-hmm.
not be a good leader, but because of the
Yeah.
strength of your teaching, you keep getting promoted.
Yeah.
Before you know it, you'll find yourself as a deputy head struggling because you don't know how to handle the relationship building that you have to engage in as a leader. You don't
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
how to handle the weight of leadership. Because this is not about your professional competence, as in the teaching in the classroom or building
Yeah.
the car or driving the aeroplane. This is about you now managing the matrix of relationships that you are now responsible
Mm-hmm.
for. And nobody's taught you that. Your
Yeah. Yeah.
CPD was how to build better cars or how to
Hmm.
teach better, how to design curriculum. No one
Hmm.
sat on a CPD which was entitled How to Hold Difficult Conversations with Colleagues Who Undermine You. Where's the
Absolutely.
course for that?
Absolutely.
That's not on your master's
Hmm.
degree and it's not in your PhD.
Mm-hmm.
So
No,
I
it's not.
concerned myself with developing courses for leaders who need to understand leadership, not the master's version, because that's the theory of leadership. Very important, but that's
Mm-hmm.
not what I'm doing. I concern myself with teaching leaders how to do leadership, how to
I hear you here saying, fantastic. I hear you here talking about having that influence and needing to propel yourself to that level to have that influence. But I also see what is so important here, which is also almost closing a gap.
yeah. Yeah, I
Closing
mean, there is
closing
a
a
gap.
gap.
Especially, I mean, I, I,
Yeah.
I, I coach leaders, both male and female, but I do have an academy of women's leadership because there is a gap between leadership competence and leadership confidence. And
Hmm.
that gap needs to be closed so that you're able to thrive at the table. I can do this job. I'm qualified. I've got my master's. I've got my CCNA or whatever, qualification you need for your profession. I've been to university, I've read, I've studied, I've built the car, I've built the aeroplane. I know how to do this job. I'm competent.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to sitting around the board table, I still preface
Mm-hmm.
my sentences with, oh, I'm sorry, Can I just contribute? Oh, I'm sorry. Can I just interrupt? I don't know how to hold my space.
As a
Or
woman.
as a woman, or I'm in the space and it's rather than helping other women come in behind me, I slam the door shut. I've got to the table, nobody else is going to, and I slam that door shut. So I now take on this persona that prevents other women from rising and for taking their place at the table, because I want to have this space. I fought to get here and I'm going to claim it, and that's it. No one else is coming.
I'm so happy you
So,
brought that up, I'm happy you brought that up because my next area of conversation was going to be women in the boardroom. Okay. So I'm just going to come back to this. Now, given what you have just said, could that also be a factor in the low percentage of women that we have in the boardroom?
yeah,
Are we slamming the door against ourselves?
of course we are. But some
Why?
women do it. I've
Some,
seen it.
some
I've
women.
experienced it. It is not by any means the whole picture, because there's a glass ceiling that is there, and it's been reinforced with, there's a glass ceiling with concrete pillars. It's properly there. But there are women who are pioneering in their spaces to make it the norm to be a woman of integrity and of valor and of courage at the top of their game in their professional space, rather than to be the exception. I celebrate the day when a woman is promoted to CEO and no one says anything, because it's normal, not exceptional.
Because it's normal, exactly.
Exactly.
But
So
what we then need to do as women is create more opportunities for women.
absolutely.
And
But
that is what
yeah,
you have done.
that was the point of the Academy of Women's Leadership, because I was coaching women. What I founded it in England, the second lockdown, which was back in May, I think. And it was, I'm coaching one woman. So I thought, okay, let's just do this as a collective. So I sat with 12 other women who are at the top of their game in their professional space. So we have women from marketing, the NHS, healthcare, education, all sorts of roles. And we sat and wrote a curriculum that brings clarity to women on the issues of leadership that we need to understand from our point of view. I'll give you a classic example. Our foundation module is called Womanhood. And if I give you the example, there is no man on the planet who knows what it is like to miscarry a pregnancy on Friday and be at your desk as the leader of the organization on Monday. Now, that's not about sexism. That's just about biology.
Absolutely.
No man knows what it's like to have your body fail you as a woman, and yet you have to come and be your whole leadership self Monday morning. And for some women, that cycle can go on and on after repeated miscarriages. Who teaches you how to thrive in leadership when you have these other narratives going on? You have elderly parents to look after, you have pregnancy, you have children, you have a spouse, you have all sorts of things going on which are just as important, but you have to rock up as CEO, head of department, leader, vision carrier, mission carrier, values leader, and all these things. So somebody needs to teach women how to do this. And that's exactly what I did. So we sat and wrote a curriculum. Woman is the foundation module. We have modules such as, how do you create psychological safety in your team? Who teaches you how to do that? Nobody. Your master's degree will not have that as a module, right? The professional training that your boss will send you on will not teach you. Here's how to create a culture. Remember, leaders concern themselves with culture. Here's how to create a culture where your team feels safe to tell you, I'm making a mistake. I think I'm doing this wrong. They will disclose to you they're making a mistake as they're making it. They feel so safe to say to you, I am stuck. Or I am doing really well. We teach the women on the academy not just to have psychological safety. Here is how you do it. Here is how you take
Exactly.
that. Here is the
What
step
are
by
the core
step framework.
protocols? Yeah.
Exactly. So that's what the
What are the
academy is
core
about.
protocols?
And we incorporate coaching and all those other things as well. But it gives that professional forum for direct, tangible teaching, so women can close that gap between I'm competent, I can do this job, now I am
And confidence.
confident. And I teach
Yeah.
this. Confidence is not a feeling. People say it. I feel confident. It is not a feeling. Confidence is the stance you step into when you take action. So you do something and you step into confidence. It's almost like a place where you step into. Feelings come and go. I feel
Yeah.
happy, I don't feel happy. I feel in love, I don't feel like I love anymore. That comes and goes. I am always confident. As a woman, I am always confident.
Hmm.
If I find something where, oh my goodness, I don't know how to do that, I have the confidence, the stance of I know what to do to move myself into a place of confidence in that regard. I know how to take
Absolutely.
action.
Absolutely.
That is
Because we
what we
wouldn't
teach.
always know everything,
Say
but
again.
I can go find out. We wouldn't
I can
always
go
have
find
all the
out. I know how
answers,
to
but
find
I
out.
can
I,
ask somebody.
I know that asking for help and support is not a weakness. I know how to
Exactly.
ask for help and support. I know how to build alliances in correct places. I've been taught these things. That is what we teach on the academy.
Hmm. Fantastic. I absolutely love the angle you came up with the women opening doors for women. And I
Absolutely.
think that is just so, so, so important. And I want to believe that is something you really, really attend to in your academy.
Yeah. Yeah,
Definitely,
absolutely.
because it
Yeah.
seems this is something you're just not happy about at all. And I'm not happy about it at all. And
No, it is
I
that
believe
really.
we should do more for ourselves as women, because
Yeah.
like I said, I was going to bring up the issue of women in the boardroom. We should do more for each other as women. It's almost as though some women get this status thing or energy from, you know what, I'm the only female here. I don't know, I don't want to be the only female anywhere.
No.
I want women like myself there as well. So it
Uh,
is very
yeah,
important that we are not the impediment. Now,
absolutely. But we
it
don't
is
stand in the way of that
important
progress. Yeah.
that we don't stand in the way of other women. It is important that as we rise and rise and rise as leaders, that we are not the impediment. If anything, we are creating more and more opportunities for
Yeah.
other women. Thank you so much, Diana, for what you do. Thank you so much. Ronke, love the why of the academy and the passion driving it, Diana Osagie.
Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, Diana, her website, let me just put it up here. You can see she knows her stuff. She's passionate about what she does. You want to check out her website and see if you can key into her offerings. Courageous leadership, even though some leaders might tell you there's no space for courage in the organization.
Yeah.
But this is courageous. Yeah, this is courageousleadership.co.uk if you want to know more from Diana. Now, back to my other banners. Talk about urban leadership. Now, this is what I love about what I do. For every guest that I have to do some research. So, reading your profile, I picked this up, urban leadership. I'm like, what's this one now? Tell us a little bit about
I think
that.
it's just literally about the space where I chose to serve, especially in my
Yeah,
profession, education. Leading a school in inner city London is
yeah,
very different to leading a school in rural Cheltenham or Berkshire, something like that. It's
okay.
just because the young people come with different agendas and issues in their home lives. So I mean, I'll give you an example where my school, it was a fantastic place. We were in a borough in Islington, North London. However, every school in Islington, every secondary school was ring fenced. We had fences that were 13, 14 feet high around the perimeter. That is just what you are leading in that situation. When I was executive head of a school in another part of the country, in Cambridgeshire, open fields all around the school. There's no fence. That just gives you an idea that when you're in an urban context, you are dealing with different aspects of society that try to influence what you're doing within your school gates. Yeah.
Right.
So urban leadership is that remember I said to you about what we are for, mission. My school was there to provide quality education right on your local doorstep. You don't have to go to private school to get a good education. You can come out of your door, come across the road, and come to school. So that was what we
And
were
for an
for.
urban leader, give me two qualities that, or two stands that an urban leader needs to show up in.
An urban leader, I mean, we talk about resilience. You have
Yes.
to be ready to take knocks, leadership knocks, and recover yourself quickly, because the agenda in the urban space changes every day. So one day it might be that estate fighting that estate. Your children come from estate A, those children from estate B, and something will kick off. And whatever will happen, you've got to be able to deal with that and recover yourself.
Postcode war, they call it.
Postcode wars and all these things which we as adults see as something removed. But when you work in the urban leadership space in schools, it is a daily reality for my young people. So I cannot just say to my young people, stay until 6 o'clock for your extra revision for maths, and then just let them go if it's nighttime, if it's winter, because they're going to come up against people from a different postcode because it's late. I have to walk them to the tube station, put them on a tube, which will take them to their postcode.
Wow.
I can't say, yeah, that's the end of the revision and see you guys tomorrow, because I'll be putting them into danger if I do that. If it's darkness, even during the daytime, because we're a school here, that estate is there, I will walk down the road and I will stand on guard at the end of the road. So anybody in that area will see that I am right there. You cannot come and take my children's mobile phone from them or intimidate them. We are there. So in urban leadership in schools, my job is not just within the school gate, within the curriculum, within pastoral care. My young people have issues. That means I have to step outside of the curriculum and be an advocate for their narrative. Is it easy? No, it's not. Not everybody is called to do what we do. Is it satisfying? It is the best job in the world.
I'm sure it is, Diana. Thank you so much. I am sure it is. I just had to bring that up because I know the challenge that comes with being an inner city school, being a staff teacher, head teacher in an inner city school. I mean, I live in some village, in some remote village in Kent. I love my peace and quiet, but we all know what it's like in London these days. We see everything in the news. So Diana, thank you so much for being our guest today. Thank you for the time you have invested here today.
You're most welcome.
I totally appreciate your time here today, and thank you for all that you do. And we are coming slowly to the hour, and I am just going to say thank you to our audience also. Thank you for spending your 1 hour here with us today. I am not going to be on air for the next 4 weeks, just to let you know. I'm taking the whole of October. Off because as leaders ourselves, we need to keep developing ourselves. So, and I'm also starting my own cohort, and I'm also joining a leadership cohort. And I know it's all going to be too much for me in October. So unfortunately, you're not going to be seeing me again until the first week of November. But I want to really use this opportunity to say thank you for being here every Sunday. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you. Thank you so much. Diana, thank you for your time here today.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye now.
And bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye. Thank you.